Okay, so have you guys seen those little Aliexpress kits where you can take a regular G-Shock watch and convert it into one of those super expensive full metal G-Shock watches? Well, I got one of those, and I think I found maybe one of the coolest original G-Shocks to put into that mod, and today I'm going to show it to you. Let's take a look. Hey guys, this is Dave. Welcome back to Just the Watch, and today I'm going to show you how I modified a Casio DW-5600BBMA-1, which is the kind of mirror finish Casio G-Shock, and put it into one of those full metal case and bracelets that you can pick up off of Aliexpress. I think the total price that I paid for both the G-Shock watch and the bezel and bracelet was right around $100, which is significantly cheaper than the $500 you would normally pay for a genuine full metal G-Shock. But you can't actually buy a full metal G-Shock that looks like this, and I think this one looks pretty cool. One of the really fun things about getting these little kits from AliExpress is you can actually pick which G-Shock you want to put into it, and there's a lot of different options. And I think I might have found one of the coolest combinations. I went with that sort of mirror finish, the DW-5600BBMA-1, which has a really crazy face to the G-Shock. The rest of it's very simple G-Shock, but the face of it's like an actual mirror finish. I didn't know that they had any G-Shocks like that. And it looks pretty cool. Now this mod project was actually kind of the end of sort of a long, sad saga that started when I asked my kids to try and break my pink G-Lide G-Shock with the tie graph on it, and they happily obliged. If you haven't seen that video, you can check it out. I'll link it up above. But basically, I got a watch to test to see how durable a G-Shock was, to see if my kids could break it. My kids successfully broke it, and heavily damaged the outer shell of it. Damaged one of the buttons on it. I was able to actually get it mostly back into functioning condition, but the exterior was pretty damaged, and so I wanted to put that into one of these metal mods to try and bring it back to life. Unfortunately, the GLX series is not compatible. It's got slightly different screw points and slightly different button positions, so it didn't actually fit into the case. So I had to abandon that project. And I went online here in Japan to see what the cheapest G-Shock I could get that would actually fit in this case. And I came across this mirror finish one and decided to go with that one. Now, the metal mod kit that I got from AliExpress came in typical AliExpress fashion, taking much longer than I expected to arrive and being pretty beat up when it got here. But the contents of the package were perfectly fine. And not only did it include the metal bezel and bracelet, it also included screws, screwdrivers, tools, basically everything that you needed to complete the little mod project on your own. The one thing that it didn't have was instructions, but I was able to basically figure out how to do it after watching a couple of videos on YouTube, and I'll show you guys how I did it on here as well. Now the process for installing the bezel and strap was really straightforward. It's not very complicated at all. Basically on the original watch there are 4 screws on the outside of the case that after removing you're able to peel off that sort of outer shroud of the case, revealing the mid case of the G-Shock. You're also going to want to remove the strap from the watch, which is just held on by typical spring bars. Once you've done that, it's just a matter of taking that metal bezel and popping it on over that mid case and then screwing all the screws back in to get a nice tight fit. From there, you install the stainless steel bracelet like pretty much any other stainless steel bracelet that you would normally install. One challenge that I did run into is that the bracelet wouldn't quite install properly with the spring bars that they supplied. I could get it to snap in on one side, but the other side I couldn't get to fit into the pinhole on the case of the watch. What I wound up doing was taking that small screwdriver and just kind of applying some pressure to the quick release spring bar knob that's sticking up to push the spring bar into the hole, and that was able to get to slide in, and from there it connected and was in there pretty solidly. But that was the only challenge I ran into with this throughout the whole thing. Another interesting thing is how the bracelet is sized. I assumed at first that this was going to be like sizing a normal metal bracelet where it's a matter of pushing the pins out. However, the bracelet itself is actually made up of individual links that are held together by spring bars, by small spring bars. So the way that you do it is you've kind of got to push the spring bar in at both ends and then pull, and it will just, one of the links will just slide out, and then you're able to remove however many links you want. And then after you're done, again, they're just spring bars, so it's kind of like installing a watch band, but you're, pushing the links back together. And that was it. All in all, it was a pretty easy process, and the result was actually a lot better than I expected. Again, I think that the silver mirror finish on the case goes really well with the watch itself. I think it looks great. And the bracelet and bezel is pretty high quality. I was pretty impressed with that. The finishing mimics very closely the genuine metal G-Shock. It does have the G-Shock branding on both the bezel and the buckle, which looks great, but there might be some ethical concerns there because this is definitely not an official G-Shock product, even though the internals of it is still. So if that kind of thing bothers you, you might want to stay away from it. Again, mimicking the real metal G-Shock, you're getting a polished shroud with a brushed sort of bezel portion on top of it, and then the bracelet is brushed. So you get kind of a transition from the top being polished down to a brushed bracelet. And overall, it looks really great, and it's actually really comfortable on the wrist too. The bracelet is really high quality. Overall, I was really impressed with the quality of the metal that they used, and it's a super cool look. One thing to note as far as wearability goes, the kind of lugs of the watch and then the first links on the bracelet both jut out pretty far, giving what is kind of the equivalent of a massive 67 millimeter sort of lug to lug before you kind of get to the first articulating section of the bracelet. Now for me with a 7.5 inch wrist, I found that the curvature conformed to my wrist pretty well. So again, it's 67.5 millimeters across, but it does slope down pretty quickly. So it's not like a straight across 67 millimeters. It's sort of angled down, and those angles manage to conform to my wrist, so it fits mine pretty well. But if you have much smaller than a 7.5 inch wrist, you might start to get some overhang, where you might have some troubles getting this to fit well for you. And while I don't have any real reason to feel like this is now less secure or less durable than an actual original G-Shock, just knowing that this is an aftermarket case purchased on Aliexpress from China, it does leave me feeling like it's probably lost some of its durability. I know that G-Shock and I know that Casio, when they designed the G-Shock, everything about it plays a part in the durability of the watch. So when you're changing out this many of the parts, you do run the risk of maybe it not having as much shock protection. I don't know if having this metal case on there now instead of a softer plastic one is going to absorb shock differently, that this watch was not originally designed to handle that. So there might be some considerations like that. Also, the bracelet is much more rigid now, and it's held in by a lot of spring bars and pins. So there's things that could potentially bend, and so overall, I kind of feel like it's lost some of the durability that even with the original kind of plastic and resin strap and case that it would have had then. But that said, you are still keeping the 200 meters of water resistance. It is still a very durable watch, and it looks really cool on the wrist. So it kind of takes it and turns into a little bit more of a fashion piece, I think. But it is still a very tough watch, a very comfortable watch, and a nice digital watch. Some quick notes on the G-Shock that I put inside of this, the DW-5600BBMA-1. This is a very basic level G-Shock module. You're not getting world time. You're just getting the very basic functions of time, stopwatch, timer, and that's pretty much it. You're also getting the backlight and the perpetual calendar that comes pretty much standard on all G-Shocks, but it's the movement inside, or the module inside, is a very basic one. The legibility is also not as great as probably some other G-Shocks are. It's kind of hard to tell even what kind of display it is. I think it's not a negative display. It's a normal one, but in some lightings it looks like a negative display where it looks like the face is black and the text is white. But in other lightings it looks like a positive display where the text is sort of that gray, or the background is sort of that gray background and the text is the black. So it's got a really weird finish on it. And then of course, it being that mirror finish, the lighting and the reflections often get in the way of legibility. But I never had a really difficult time reading it. It definitely takes a hit to legibility in exchange for that sort of really cool, catchy, reflective look to it. But overall, it is a really cool look. It's unlike any other watch that I've seen. It's something that doesn't really come across in pictures. I think you can pick it up in some of the videos and the things that I'm showing as we go through this. But yeah, if you're just looking at product pictures, you would have never guessed that the finish had this much of a mirror tint to it. So I think that's a really fun watch face to pair with that sort of full metal mod here. Overall, let me know what you guys think. I had a lot of fun doing this, and it's fun having this kind of sort of quirky watch in my collection now that's sort of a Frankenstein. But yeah, I really enjoy wearing it. Again, it's very comfortable on the wrist, and it's pretty rugged and durable. And I keep finding more G-Shocks piling up in my house. It seemed like a month ago that I got my first G-Shock, and now this is my third one. I've got a couple more I want, but I've got other things to work on too. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, definitely ask that you would. This is a channel about budget watch collecting, so I review affordable watches, talk about how to build a watch collection on a small budget, and then also do kind of a watch of the month club where we look at different watches in a certain price range. So if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff, definitely ask that you would subscribe. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you later and see you next time.